What this video is going to be about is about replacing the trunk pan in 1967 Cadillac. This one is a Cadillac two-door, but they're all the same. Also, I think the trunks are all the same from 65 to 70. The basics on this job will carry over onto any 60s car, probably a lot of other cars too. I replaced the trunk on my 1965 Impala when I first got the car. It had already been cut out. In this car, I'm basically starting from scratch. The trunk floor is really eaten up with rust, and gas tank's already been removed. I started this project off thinking I was going to take patch panels from my parts car and patch the holes. As time went on, I ended up realizing that the trunk was worse than I thought, and the floor of the parts car was worse than I thought. So I went ahead and ordered a brand new trunk pan from eBay, and it's the only trunk pan that I found available. It's $300 something. The quality of it is okay. You know, it's sheet metal. The only complaint I have of it is the indentions in it don't look like factory. It looks like somebody did it they did it in the shop somewhere, and I'm sure that's what it is. But I'm still thankful that I was able to get one already cut out. It's probably not that big of a deal if you wanted to buy the sheet metal yourself and cut it out, but in my case, I went ahead and bought it. I don't really have a lot of tools for doing big sheet metal work. At first, I welded the front corners of the trunk pan in, and I cut the pieces from the old parts car, and I did a good job on it. It looked really good, but that was before I realized that I needed to replace the whole trunk floor with brand new metal, so I ended up having to cut that back out, and I'll show a little bit of that in there. But basically, this job is something that anybody can do if you have tools and you have some mechanical aptitude. What I used for most of my work was a cutoff wheel, pneumatic cutoff wheel, and I used, of course, a grinder, also angle grinder. I used the welder. The welder I have is the Lincoln Electric 240 volt. The 120 volt works really well, like the ones you buy at Lowe's. And I use steel wire, and you can look up other YouTube videos on welding sheet metal. And I'm not the best welder by any means. I'm not a welder by trade. It's just a hobby to work on the cars, but you do stitch welding on sheet metal on the cars, and it's pretty easy. Pretty much anybody can do it. That's just where you weld and you move on down a couple feet. You weld a dot, then you move down and weld another dot, and then you go around in a circle, and eventually, as the metal cools down, it doesn't cause any warpage. The warpage is not as big of a problem in the trunk pan because it's not a place that's going to be really seen. It's not like when you're working on the body of the car. But anyway, I hope this video helps somebody out. I could not find a video that was like this exactly on YouTube, so hopefully it'll help people out, give them confidence to do the project themselves. I've still got a lot more to go on this car, but this was a major part of my project. The last major rust that I've had to work on this car, and the rest of the car is very solid. One reason I changed the trunk pan on this car is because underneath where the brackets weld on that bolt to the frame, those brackets were completely rusted away. There's also a structural issue on this car, so after doing everything, I was able to use the braces from my parts car. They were in really good shape. So after doing all that, I got the trunk completely back the way I wanted it, and I'll show you in the video how it looks before and after. All right, so what I'm going to do first is work on this corner here. I'm going to cut this corner out of this one and replace it with the corner out of this one, which has no holes in it. Actually got undercoating or something sprayed on it. That's what I'm going to do right now, is work on that portion. We'll just take one piece at a time and work on it until I get it all done. That's basically what it is. So I'm going to take my cutoff wheel and start cutting away at the bad metal and get rid of all the bad metal in this section. I'll buy these cutoff discs from Harbor Freight. That's what I use. There's probably better tools. It's just what I've got. You can buy the whole stack of them for like 11 bucks. I also use a mask to block out the dust, and I use goggles when I'm doing this. This is very dangerous. You get something in your eyes or Breathing in this dust would not be good. So I got the piece cut out of the corner there. You can see this is where it bolts to the frame. It was pretty much roached, nothing left of it at all. So the next thing I'll be doing is cutting it out of this car, or this part. And it's going to take me a little bit of time because the brace is on the bottom. I'm going to have to take my time and cut them off carefully so that I can weld them back onto this car. So this piece right here that you see hanging there is part of the brace that was rusted completely in two. So I'm going to cut that off and smooth that up real well. I'm going to cut that off also and smooth up the area where it's going to weld to, and then I'll have a nice clean area to weld back in. And you can see the frame there where the body bolts on is solid. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I'm guessing salt kicked up from those back tires at some point in history and laid in there and rusted it all out. All right, so this is the old piece and this is the new piece. See how messed up the old piece is? There's the new piece with the bracket and everything that mounts to the frame. I cut it out of here. I basically just traced it out and tried to make it as close to the old one as possible. I have to trim the edges, I'm sure. Try to leave it a little big in case. But you can see the hole's really cleaned up now. And I'm gonna cut this off because I was able to keep that from the other piece. I'm gonna cut all that off, and that way I'll just weld it back on. Same process with all the other trouble areas. This trunk's got a lot of trouble areas. Like I said, if you're trying to make this into a show car, you definitely buy the new trunk pan. But even then, if you bought the new sheet metal, it's not going to have the braces on there. It's just going to be flat metal. So in my case, I had to have this one out of this other car. All right, so this is what the finished product looks like on this corner that I cut out and welded in from the other car. You can see it looks pretty good, I think. It's for the inside of the trunk, so I mean, if it's solid and holds up, then I'm going to be happy with it. I've still got a lot of other spots to fix. This other side looks just as bad as that side did. I think overall that came out pretty good. And it definitely added the support that the trunk needed to be back to the way it was. You can see the body mounts there. I didn't tighten it up yet, but it threads in just fine. Overall, I'm happy with the way this is, the way this turned out. It's so we can pretty much do. Still got a couple spots to weld up there, but something you can do if you got the time and you got. I think it's something anybody can do if they got the willpower to do it and the time and the parts car. I got a lot more to go. All right, so as I continued to work on the trunk, I began to realize that I didn't think I had enough good metal to make this trunk floor work with the old one. So I went and bought some new metal off of eBay. It's cut out specifically for this trunk. It is not identical to the original. They put creases in it, but they're nowhere near as pronounced as they are on the original. The only one available that I've been able to find. So what I've got to do in order to install this, they come in 3 pieces, even though on eBay it showed it as being 1 piece. I've got to take these braces off. I've already laid it in here and traced the outline of the metal where it lays out on this, at least in the middle section. But I've got to take off the braces and I'll weld them back on. The braces are in good shape, but the metal around the braces is horrible. So basically that's what I got to do now. So what I have found to take these braces off in here, they're spot welded from the factory, pinch welded. I just use a hammer and chisel, and the braces are thick enough to where it doesn't cause any they don't really get bent up or damaged. So the original floor just kind of gives way. I use a couple chisels at the same time that kind of prise it apart as I'm working. What little bit of bending that it does, I can pretty easily hammer it back out before I weld it back. Alright, so I used a combination of the cutoff wheel and the chisel to remove this. You can see what it was underneath. It's pretty messed up. Pretty bad condition. So what I'll do next is use the wire wheel to clean this thing up, and I'll paint it. And also still have to get the other side off. And it took me probably about 30 minutes to get that one brace off. Not too bad considering, but anyway, I think it's going to be a lot better in the long run. I hate that I'm having to redo some of the work I already did, but I think it'll be better. All right, so I think the first piece I'm going to put in is going to be the middle piece, and I put it in here and drew some lines. I think what I'm going to do is cut a little to the inside of the lines so I don't cut too much. Along this edge back here, I'm going to have to cut some extra metal and fix these holes. That's a repair somebody else made at some point, but that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to work on the middle part first and cut it out. And I also got to cut it off these braces that are under the bottom. All right, so I've got the center section of the trunk cut out. This was pretty hard to do. Wasn't too bad. I actually started using air chisel. I've had it forever and never used it, but it worked pretty good. And chiseled the sheet metal away from the braces. So now what I'm going to do is take the cutoff wheel and I'm going to go smooth out all the remnants from the spot welds from before. And then we'll see how the thing fits, see how bad off it is. But I'm gonna use the hole punching tool that I bought from Harbor Freight to punch some holes down through here. So when I get ready to spot weld the trunk in, I'll spot weld it through the holes. So I got all the remnants of the welds ground off all over in this middle section. And I've started punching holes with this hole puncher from Harbor Freight. It actually works pretty good. I've used it on both my cars. It's pretty simple how it works. You just clamp it over the edge of the metal when you're going to punch the hole, like that. Push the button, and you get your hole. And then you can spot weld back into those holes. So I got all the holes punched on the two cross members there, the braces. These holes, I'm not going to be able to use that punch there because this is a curled edge, so I'm going to have to drill these holes with a drill bit, the weld spots, but it shouldn't be a big deal. So what I did is screwed this down to the braces underneath, just so it's held in place good. I didn't weld anything yet. I'm going to go ahead and try to fit all three pieces before I start welding. This top corner up here is not, it's just straight. So what I'm going to do is cut out around the hump and leave the hump on there from the original sheet metal. I think it'll fit a whole lot better if I do that. Try to cut out around it. But other than that, it looks like it's going to fit all right. I'm still going to have to do a lot of rebuilding back here. So after ripping out the other side over here and trimming this thing to make it fit somewhat, I've got the entire floor in place. It's just loosely attached right now. So I've got to go back and weld at the seams, and also, and you can get away with tack welding this and using seam sealer, but also welding it in from the bottom on the braces. But this is my third day working on this. Probably got about 16 hours in it right now. And of course, I'm not a professional, so I'm slower than normal. But it takes a lot of time to do this. It can be done if you want it, and you don't want to spend the money. You can pay somebody to do it. It's definitely doable. So I'm at the point now of cutting out this rust that's on the back edge here on the driver's side. And I'm going to cut it out, and I'll cut new metal to fit there. Not really a big deal. Now I'm getting ready to put these in, these braces, and also I patched those holes in this back side here. And you know, it's a trunk floor. Don't look perfect, but it don't look bad. It will look pretty good once I get it all cleaned up and painted and everything. These are the holes that I ripped out while removing these. So when I put it back on and weld it, I'll weld through those holes, clean all that up. So the last spot of rust repair I have to do under here is this. And this is, they just have a little piece that sits over top of this. I gotta clean up this part that's under there and treat it for rust. But the piece that sits on there, it'll cover up all the rust, and I'll cut off all the rest of it. But anyway, that's it. That's on both sides. Otherwise, as you can see under here, we've taken care of most all the rust, except for surface rust. But we've taken care of it, and just gotta finish cleaning everything up now. I got all the old brackets out and ground down. I'm ready for the new one to fit up there now. Well, the new old one. The new one from the other car. And you can see how it fits. It fits right up in there. It's got little indentions on the side there. But basically, it's gonna be, that's all gonna be like new again. So that's a good thing. That's another brace for the trunk floor that was gone. As you can see, the other one back there is now welded in place. So I got to do the one on the other side, and that will be it. I'm going to spray some of the fast stitch up in there from Eastwood to stop any rust that's in there. And then I'll paint it. What I did is drilled some holes in the tabs on this end bracket so that I can weld through the holes and it's going to be placed up here into place, and then I'll weld through those holes and weld it into place. I'm finished up with what I'm doing as far as the metal work on the trunk. You can see I got the braces welded in place now. I got to clean up the welds and stuff. New trunk pan in. Body bolts are back in, and before there was basically no body bolts. I mean, the bolts were there, but the brackets were totally rusted away. So I'm pretty happy with what I got going on here. I've still got to do a lot of cleaning up and painting and everything, but I'm very happy with the results. Took me a couple weeks to do. You see on the back of the car now, I had ripped some holes when I pulled these braces off from the inside. But as you can tell here, got the braces back in. They're spot welded. I'm gonna have to clean up the whole inside of the trunk and put some epoxy primer on this bare metal. And then I'll do the coating later. But as far as metalwork's concerned, I've got it all done. Got the spare tire brace back in place. Anyway, hopefully this helps somebody who has to replace the trunk in their Cadillac. Be best off, in my opinion, to go ahead and buy the whole trunk pan. I wish they made a better quality as far as appearance of the trunk pan. This is the only one I found available, and it's on eBay, and I'm thankful that they have it. Just the indentions here are not real. They don't really look like original, but got a nice solid trunk now. Don't have to worry about the back of the car falling off or anything. Like I said, hopefully this is helpful to somebody. Please like and subscribe.